Hey y'all, my name is Cassie and I'm the creator of Pieces of Scrap, and in today's video we're going to be doing another free Amigurumi pattern review. And to y'all's surprise and to my surprise, I actually had some subscribers, followers recommend some patterns to me to test for this video. So I will be showing those off in today's video as well as patterns that I chose. But first off, I always go through how I determine the rating of each pattern. So the first criteria I use when rating patterns is, would I use it again? I like finding patterns that are market prep friendly, and that entails quick patterns that you can work up fast and easy. So usually those are small patterns or small plushies. And then there are larger patterns that are good for that value. So you put the amount of time in it and it has a good value, a good product value for people who want to purchase that plushie. Number two is, can I understand the pattern easily? And this is just to make patterns easy to understand for all difficulty levels, not just advanced or seasoned crocheters, but also like beginner friendly patterns and that sort. You want your patterns to be really easy to understand and work through so that at any point in the pattern you don't have a question of, how am I supposed to do this? And the last thing is, do I like the finished product? And this is pretty straightforward. If you don't like what a plushie looks like, you're probably not going to end up buying it. So you may have noticed that there are no plushies on this display behind me, and that's because as I go through this review video, I'm going to add plushies to this display for you to look at as I review other plushies. So the first pattern that I reviewed is a pattern that I've been wanting to review for a long time, and that is the Baby Bunny by Cosinca.Handmade. This pattern takes you 1 hour and 30 minutes to make, and I absolutely love how she turned out. It is not a no-sew pattern. You make the body separate, the head separate, the ears separate, and then you have to sew everything in. And on top of that, you also have to make the arms separately, and there are two different variations of the ears and arms. So there's an option to add 2 rows to the ears to make them longer. I think they're plenty long as is. And there's also 2 variations of the arms. One are like fatter and shorter, and then these are the second variation, which are longer and skinnier. And I ended up going with variation 2, obviously. As for the arms, I kind of don't like sewing arms into the body. I feel like the placement always looks kind of off, so I ended up opting for not following the pattern in this instance. So I single crocheted the arms closed when I crocheted the arms, and then once I get to the last row of the body, I just single crochet those arms directly into the row, and that eliminates any need to sew on arms to the body separately. I have a few gripes with this pattern, and the first one is that the instructions for the arms comes after the instructions for the body. So if you were to do the workaround that I just talked about, you would have to skip the body instructions, do the arms, and then come back to the body to make sure that you can single crochet them directly into the body. I feel like in most people's pattern nowadays, they opt to have all the small bits and pieces made before the biggest piece, which is usually the body. So for example, for Cosinca Handmade's own cow pattern, she has you make the head, the ears, the horns, the muzzle, all of that first, and then you go into the arms and make the arms separately, and then you make the body. And that way you have like all the pieces that you need when you assemble the body at the end. And for this pattern, it's kind of out of order, it seems like, it's fine. It's just kind of annoying to have to like go to the arms first and then go back to the body if you are opting for a less sew or low sew project. The other thing that I modified about this pattern is I also single crocheted the ears closed when I finished off the ears instead of just leaving them open. That way I didn't have to worry about any gaps when I sewed the ears onto the head that any, like little fingers could get stuck in or anything like that. So my ears are single crocheted closed, and then I sew them into the head directly. And then the last thing is, this little bunny doesn't have a tail. Hey guys, so this is Editing Cassie here, and I am here to tell you that I am wrong.
there is a tail for this pattern, and there is also a pattern for a hat as well as a bag. So I'm a big dummy. And then on top of that, this kind of segues into a mod that I tried, but I'm going to cut that part out. So here's the segue to the mod.
So this is what my sweater mod ended up turning out to look like. It's not my pattern. The way that I kind of made that sentence made it sound like this is my own pattern. It's not. I kind of made adjustments of the pattern to suit my needs. So this is the Turtleneck sweater mod by Amy by Abby. It took me about an hour and 2 minutes to make just the sweater on its own. The sweater is worked as a chain, and then you slip stitch the chain closed, and then you work in a round up to your arms and turtleneck. So I think the way that the arms are made on this, similar to Kaylee Crochet's Brontosaur pattern, where you like had chained and skipped some stitches and then continued crocheting around the row, and then you come back to that circle gap that you left later to crochet the tail directly into, and I think that's what you do in the arms for this pattern as well. My sweater ended up coming out way too long. It was about that long when I finished it, and so I was like, you know, it's probably just a dress at this point. So I ended up adding like this little scallop detail on the bottom here. I embroidered some flowers onto the dress. And then the only other thing that I should mention is I don't think I made the sleeves as long as her pattern calls for. And I don't think the turtleneck is as long as it calls for in her pattern. Her turtleneck in the pattern is meant to fold over, so it's like a natural turtleneck, like how you would purchase a turtleneck. And I just opted not to do that, so because it's plenty tall anyway, and I kind of like this look better than the big folded over square look. It makes it look like there's no neck on the bunny at all. It just looks like a big rectangle. So I ended up just making the turtleneck smaller, the sleeves are shorter, and then I added the scallop detail on the bottom. Overall, it's a really cute mod for this little guy. It takes a lot more time than I think it should, and I think there's not really anything to be done about that. It's just the nature of this sweater pattern and the nature of how big the pattern is, or the plushie is already. It just makes it a fairly big project to add on to an already big project. There are a lot more mods for this pattern that I want to try out. Like Kosinka Handmade has a separate version of this pattern with like an overalls and a hat, and the hat is crocheted directly from, like, you start the hat and then you crochet the head off of the hat. So I kind of wish it was a removable hat, but it's not. But at the same time, I think it's really cute, and I would want to try that in the future. But for this video, I did not try that mod, but I think it's a really, really cute pattern. I'm going to kind of bundle the sweater pattern mod in with the bunny mod, even though they're two separate creators. I really, really enjoy what this looks like. It's super cute. It's super recognizable. Whenever you see this bunny out there and somebody's made it, you're like, yes, that's the Kosinka Handmade pattern. Like, everybody knows what it is. So that being said, I'd give this pattern 4 stars out of 5. Next up, I kind of mentioned this pattern already in the video, but Kaylee Crochet ended up making a version 2 of her Brontosaur pattern, so I ended up testing that this week as well. And this pattern took me 1 hour and 10 minutes to make. In comparison to the old pattern, it saves you about 10 minutes time. I don't know if that's because when I initially tested the pattern, it had been the first time I tested it, and I just had some struggles and stuff like that, and that has a lot to do with timing too. I feel like the more you make something, the faster you get at it. So I'm very familiar with how this pattern works, and there were some minor changes to the pattern, but nothing like significant. Some of the revisions that I suggested being made didn't get made. For example, when you crochet the legs, the way that they work is they're 4 separate pieces, but you crochet them together. So you start with 2 pieces, you crochet them together kind of like you would with the bunny legs, and then you make the second set of legs, and then you're supposed to mark the stitches from the first increase to the last increase on both sets of legs, and that comes out to like 14 or 15 stitches that are in between those 2 stitch markers. And then you're supposed to slip stitch those 2 pieces together so that you have a seam down the middle and it's no-sew. and the stitch markers are meant to tell you what stitches you're supposed to slip stitch together. My complaint with that is that nowhere in the pattern does it tell you that you're marking those stitches for that purpose. All right, so I quickly ran upstairs to my office so that I can get a version 1 Brontosaur of Kaylee Crochet's pattern so that I can give you like a visual comparison of the two before I kind of conclude my review of this new pattern. So this is the old pattern. At first glance, it looks very, very similar to the new one, but let's do a side by side.
Hey guys, Editing Cassie again. So I'm looking at the pattern side by side, and the main thing that I'm noticing as a difference is the placement of the stitches where the chin falls on the head. So it looks like she shifted the increases over one. The tail is worked differently, specifically because the decreases are placed in different spots, which leads to that different shape. And I think there's been a lot of housekeeping things to make the pattern easier to read. Specifically with the legs, it's really obvious that she wanted to really lay out what and where you needed to place the stitches. And then on top of that, it's just more detailed descriptions.
But yeah, not super different, but I think the pattern is definitely improved in terms of workability, making it easy to understand. I think it's a lot prettier, which is always a plus. The pattern, the written pattern is a lot prettier, and it's still free, which is awesome. So thank you, Kaylee Crochet, for revising your pattern, and I look forward to new patterns from you in the future. Next up that I have is a pattern that's been in my haven't tested for a while now. I think I saw it and it was really cute, but I wasn't really super into big projects that require a lot of sewing when I first saved it, so I saved it as like a way down the line pattern that I'll try at some point. So here it is. It is the Dinosaur in Shorts by Crochet Calls. And obviously I didn't make the shorts on him. A dinosaur like this is plenty cute as is. I don't really want to make something with clothes. So take that as you will. I did not test that part of the pattern. I tested the body and main plushie of the pattern and not the clothes. The main thing I noted about this pattern is there's just so much sewing. I really wish there wasn't so much sewing. You make the legs, the arms, the head, and the spine all separately, and then you have to sew them all on later. So that's always something I'm not a fan of. The tail is also a separate part that you have to sew on later. I think something you could do to eliminate some of the sewing is you could just crochet the spine directly into the body. The main issue with the spine being a separate piece is that when you're just following her pattern, your spine may end up being longer than your body is if you have like a certain kind of tension or something like that. So I think mine was sewed on a little bit farther down the forehead than it is in her photo, and that's because if I was to sew it on where she placed it and recommend placing it, my spine would have wrapped around the bottom of the tail a little bit, and I didn't want that to happen. The Mini Dino pattern, which is a free pattern by Nicole Crochets and Celestial CB Crochet, it's a pattern that I tested for them. They do a great job of explaining how to crochet directly into the body to get their spine, and I think that this pattern, if it was ever reworked, or if you're ever working on it in the future and want a tip, you could probably just crochet the spine directly into the body, and that would save you another piece that you have to sew on. Another workaround for your arms and your legs is something that I say every single time there's a pattern that involves sewing arms and legs, is you can just crochet these directly into the row that they are supposed to be in. So for like every cow, like the bunny pattern that I showed you earlier, all that, I usually avoid the sewing route by just single crocheting the arms closed, and then I will single crochet them into whatever row that they're supposed to be. And this requires a little bit of eyeballing to make sure you get them in the right spot, but then that will eliminate some sewing that you have to do and eliminates another step that you have to accomplish before the plushie's finished. But overall, I think it's a really cute pattern. I haven't seen anything like this before. It's really cute. I love the face. He's got like this really subtle little like muzzle shape that is worked directly into the rounds for the head, and the cute little tail is so adorable. The way that I sewed it on there, it's kind of, and with this yarn specifically, it's not very obvious that it's sewn on there, so that's another plus. So yeah, I really like this pattern. It definitely could use some work in the sewing category, but it's not everybody's cup of tea to have a no-sew pattern. Some people prefer sewing, or some people don't have a huge problem with sewing, so I'm not gonna tick them on that, but I think it's cute. It could be drastically decreased in the amount of time it is required to work it if you were to incorporate some no-sew elements into this pattern. So overall, I would give this pattern 4 stars out of 5. Next up is a follower suggestion that I got on Instagram. This is from Cozy Hobbies Shell, and her name is on screen in case I mispronounced it or said it incorrectly. It is the baby pattern by Bunny's Plush. This pattern takes about 43 minutes to make, and it is a low sew pattern. You make the head, the muzzle, the ears, the tail, and the body separately. There's quite a few pieces involved, but you make the body first, and my main note about the body is that you work it from the butt to the front of the body, and it's not as you expect. Like most bodies that I work on, you work in a round, and you, like for example, this is the start of the round and you work upwards, and so I was thinking that this would be the top of the body, and then we would be adding legs like at some point like at the bottom. That's how I'm familiar with working most patterns, but instead the legs were worked on the bottom of the row and all on separate rows, which was a little weird to me as well. I usually have a lot of difficulty with leg placement, especially because of my tension, but I didn't have that problem in this pattern. But the weirdest thing about the leg placement is that it's placed at the end of each row and then the beginning of the next row. So for like this one, for example, you end the row, have a bobble stitch, and then there's 2 stitches, and then you end that row, and then you start on the next row, there's 2 stitches, and then a bobble, which I'm not used to, and that threw me off a lot, and I was really worried that that it wasn't coming out properly, because that's not normally how I work bobble stitches for legs. But I trusted the process, and it ended up turning out the way that it should have, which is cool. Next up, you work the head. The head is just this little cylinder shape with an open bottom. And then you make the muzzle, the ears, you put the eyes in, and you sew on the blush, obviously not in that order. You make the head, you add your eyes, you add the blush, you stuff it. The biggest thing that was kind of weird for me was that the assembly instructions for the head are a little weird. Like the order that they appear is weird. Placing the eyes, obviously that's something that you would do first. And then for the muzzle, it doesn't say anything about stuffing the muzzle, but I ended up stuffing the muzzle. It looked like in the photo that it was stuffed. I don't know how you get that shape and keep that shape without stuffing it. So I ended up stuffing it. And then the ears and the tail are all the same pattern. You just chain 2 and then you single crochet back into them, or you slip stitch back into them, and then you fasten off and sew them onto where they are supposed to go on the body. For the ears and the tail, obviously, you know what I'm gonna say. You can crochet those directly into the body. Just work them directly into the body. Saves you time, don't have to fasten off, don't have to sew anything. It's easier. I'm sure people get sick of me saying that, but it saves time. It really does. I imagine this pattern could probably be no-sew if you worked from the head down or from the body up. Somehow this could be no-sew. In a similar way to the Brontosaurus no-sew, I'm sure that you could make this no-sew. It just would require, you know, a little bit more thought into how that would happen. But overall, I really like how this pattern looks. It's cute. You got cute little llama guy, and he's kind of like looking at you from the side. It's really cute. So I would give this pattern 3.5 stars out of 5. And then finally, the last pattern is also a follower's suggestion, but I don't remember who sent it to me. I just scoured my Instagram DMs for like 15 minutes trying to figure out who sent this to me, and I opened like every chat that I've had for the past like month, and I couldn't find it. And I'm pretty sure when I asked for suggestions, it was like 3.5 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or something like that. So I don't think it could have been sent prior to that, but it is Suds the Sea Slug, and this is a pattern by Kai's Crochet Corner and Cozy Wonder Crochet. It's really cute. I wasn't expecting to like this so much. The picture is adorable. It seems like their little frill in the picture is a little bit bigger than mine, like a little bit longer. So he's got more of these like cool waves and it kind of like sticks up in front of his face. It's really cute. But this thing looks like a little swimming little guy. Like these are little water waves washing up next to him, but it also just looks like it's part of him. He's got this cute little skirt. And then of course the embroidery is really cute on him as well, giving him these little stripy spots. The frill is made by chaining a certain number, and it tells you to make sure that the chain wraps around the body evenly, and that to increase the number of chains or decrease them accordingly in case your body is bigger or smaller. After that, you single crochet around in the body color, and then you do 3 half double crochets in each stitch after that in the next row in your frill color to create these little cute little ripply waves. So that's very cute. I think this pattern can also be made no-sew if you just single crochet directly into the body to make this frill after you fasten off, and then you wouldn't have to worry about sewing the frill directly into the body afterwards. So with that said, I would give this pattern 4.5 stars out of 5. It's really cute. The last thing that I want to mention before I get into my outro for today's video is I have a new tester call up on my Instagram. So if you're interested in testing a pattern for me, make sure you check it out. It's these little guys, and I haven't come up with a name for them yet. I want them to be like little like garden guys. So this one's like a carrot or pineapple, and then we've got like a little radish and another little radish. So lots of different color choices available, and it's completely no-sew. It's another no-sew pattern of mine, very market prep friendly, works up in about 25 minutes, 20 minutes. They are very quick makes, and I hope you guys enjoy them. And I would really, really appreciate if you head over to my Instagram and apply for the tester call if you're interested. If you guys couldn't tell by this video already, revealing all my patterns, you could probably tell that I really like this new blue Bernat baby blanket color. I think I showed it in one of my last yarn hauls. So I chose to do a lot of the patterns in that color this time, as well as just like blues in general for some reason. I'm not sure what that's about. It hasn't been cold or anything. I haven't been wanting it to be cold. I don't know. Blue was just my thing this week, I guess. Sorry about that. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit that thumbs up button down below. That tells the YouTube algorithm that you like this video and you want more people to see it. That helps me out. And if you want to suggest a pattern for me to review in a future video, make sure you follow me on Instagram. Send me any patterns you see that are free that you would like me to test and review in a future video, and I will keep an eye out for those, and they might come up in the next video. You'll see. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video and want to see more of my content in the future, I post new videos every Tuesday, and if you hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon next to it, that will tell you when I upload. So make sure you keep an eye out for new uploads every Tuesday, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!